Most people mistake average market returns for spendable income, but relying on a 10% growth projection is a mathematical trap that ignores the reality of sequence of returns risk. To achieve true financial independence, you must pivot from chasing yields to mastering the safe withdrawal rate, typically 3-4%, which dictates that you need a diversified portfolio 25-33x your annual expenses to survive a 30 to 50-year horizon. This is the cold, data-driven reality of how a sustainable portfolio actually functions when the paycheck stops. The financial landscape is littered with myths, none more pervasive than the idea that compound interest functions like an automated bread machine that kneads and bakes wealth while you sleep without ever needing more flour. While the concept of growth is real, the mechanics of turning a pile of assets into a permanent replacement for a salary are often shrouded in vague promises. We are moving past the hollow advice found in viral listicles that oscillate wildly between suggesting a modest $50,000 or an impossible $10 million to find freedom. Instead, we must anchor our strategy in the cold reality of historical market performance and rigorous retirement data to determine exactly what it takes to sustain a life entirely through portfolio distributions. To be precise, our focus is not on the narrow strategy of surviving solely on dividend checks. We are examining the architecture of a total return portfolio, one designed to expand over decades, where you systematically harvest a portion of that growth to fund your lifestyle. This is the standard engine used in professional retirement modeling, yet the average investor often operates with a broken compass. Have you ever sat down to calculate the exact moment your capital becomes more productive than your labor? Most people miss the mark because they misunderstand the fundamental variables involved in the transition from accumulation to distribution. Consider a conversation I had with an aspiring retiree who planned to exit the workforce at age 45 with a target of $800,000. The internal logic seemed airtight to them. If the stock market maintains a long-term average return of 10%, then an $800,000 nest egg should naturally spit out $80,000 every year in perpetuity. This is a seductive mathematical illusion. Relying on average returns to dictate annual spending is a gamble that ignores the volatility of the real world. This specific brand of analytical error is dangerous. It lures some into a premature retirement that ends in insolvency, while keeping others tethered to their desks for years longer than necessary because they lack a reliable yardstick for enough. The safeguard against this error is a concept that changed the face of financial planning in the 1990s when William Bengen analyzed decades of market cycles. He looked at diversified baskets of equities and fixed income to see how much a person could actually peel away from their savings without the tank hitting empty. His findings birthed the 4% rule. Under this framework, a retiree with $1 million would draw $40,000 in their first year. From that point forward, they would not simply take 4% of whatever was left, they would take that initial $40,000 and increase it annually to keep pace with the rising cost of goods. While this served as a sturdy benchmark for a 30-year window, the ground has shifted. Modern analysts, including those at research firms like Morningstar, now caution that current market valuations and lower yields might push that safe figure into the high 3% range. The stakes climb significantly when we shift the horizon from a standard 30-year retirement to a 45 or 50-year journey for those retiring at 40. When your money has to outlive you by half a century, the margin for error evaporates. This brings us face to face with the sequence of returns risk, the statistical nightmare where a market downturn early in your retirement wipes out so much capital that the portfolio never recovers, even if average returns look good on paper years later. To combat this, experts increasingly advocate for a more defensive posture, suggesting withdrawal rates as low as 3% or 3.5% for the early retirement crowd. Understanding these nuances is the difference between a secure future and a mathematical collapse. The internal mechanics of a retirement fund are far less about luck and more about the cold physics of division. While the 4% benchmark serves as a reliable compass for many, it is crucial to remember that a compass is a tool for navigation, not a guaranteed arrival at the destination. To find your required capital, you simply divide your desired annual expenditure by 0.04. This reveals that a $40,000 lifestyle demands a $1 million foundation. Scaling up, a $60,000 annual spend necessitates a $1.5 million nest egg, while a $100,000 lifestyle requires a portfolio totaling $2.5 million. Safety margins often dictate a more guarded path, requiring a larger engine to pull the same weight. If you shift your strategy to a 3.5% withdrawal rate, the benchmarks move higher. $40,000 now requires $1.14 million, $60,000 requires $1.71 million, and a $100,000 income target jumps to $2.86 million. For those seeking the ultimate fortress of a 3% rate, the numbers become even more substantial. At this conservative level, you would need $1.33 million to generate $40,000, a flat $2 million for $60,000, and $3.33 million to safely pull six figures annually. Despite these intimidating figures, the sheer momentum of a long-term investment strategy is frequently undervalued. Imagine a 25-year-old professional setting their sights on a departure date at age 55. With a 30-year runway and a disciplined monthly contribution of $500, a nominal 8% average return can transform modest savings into a staggering sum. Elevating that contribution to $750 per month compounds the effect exponentially. Furthermore, the final 5 years of such a journey act like a rocket booster. Because the growth is calculated on a much larger base, those concluding years often generate more wealth than the first 2 decades combined. This phenomenon turns the uphill climb of early saving into a downhill sprint as the portfolio gains its own gravitational pull. However, the raw size of your account is a deceptive metric if you ignore the silent partner of the government. True financial freedom is measured by after-tax spending power, not the pre-tax sticker price of your brokerage statement. In a standard taxable account, you are liable for dividends and capital gains, though long-term rates offer a slight reprieve compared to standard income brackets. Conversely, traditional retirement vehicles like the 401k or IRA treat every dollar withdrawn as ordinary income, effectively shrinking your usable cash. Roth accounts remain the gold standard of clarity, offering qualified withdrawals that are entirely tax-free. Mastering this complexity requires what experts call tax diversification. By spreading your wealth across taxable, traditional, and Roth buckets, you gain the tactical flexibility to manipulate your tax bracket in real time. If your entire net worth is locked in tax-deferred accounts, you are forced to withdraw significantly more than you actually intend to spend just to satisfy the IRS. By contrast, a healthy Roth balance allows for a leaner gross withdrawal to achieve the exact same standard of living. This strategic layering ensures that you are not just building a large pile of money, but a functional machine that delivers maximum utility. Asset allocation functions as the internal ballast of your financial ship, determining how you weather the inevitable storms of the market. While equities are the high-octane fuel that drives long-term expansion, they come with a turbulent ride that can unnerve the unprepared. Bonds, by contrast, act like a steadying hand on the wheel, offering a smoother journey but at the cost of slower overall speed. Those with decades of runway ahead usually anchor their strategy in stocks, relying on time to heal the wounds of any sudden downturn. Conversely, as the transition to living off savings nears, the emphasis shifts toward fixed income to dampen the portfolio's swings. You may have encountered the old heuristic suggesting you subtract your age from 100 to find your stock percentage, but using such a blunt tool for a precision task is a dangerous shortcut. A truly robust plan requires a deeper analysis of your unique appetite for risk, the years you have remaining, and how much elasticity exists in your future budget. To see how these variables interact in the real world, consider a professional who is 30 years old with the ambitious goal of reaching total financial independence by 50. If this individual anticipates needing $50,000 each year to sustain their lifestyle, they might opt for a conservative 3.5% withdrawal rate to account for a retirement that could span half a century. The math dictates a target of approximately $1.43 million. Starting with $20,000 already in the market, the mission transforms into a calculation of monthly contributions. Success here hinges on aggressive savings rates, return projections, and optimizing tax buckets. Leveraging a 401k match from an employer serves as a powerful tailwind, as does the habit of increasing your investment percentage every time your salary climbs. The fundamental takeaway is that your freedom date should be the result of cold equations rather than vague hopes. The geographic setting of your life acts as a massive lever on the size of the nest egg you require. Maintaining a high standard of living in expensive hubs like London, New York, or San Francisco requires a significantly more massive capital base than retiring in a quiet, low-cost region. This reality has fueled the popularity of geographic arbitrage, where investors move to more affordable states or nations to effectively slash the portfolio size they need to survive. However, viewing this solely through the lens of a spreadsheet is a mistake. Relocating involves a complex web of trade-offs, including the quality of healthcare, varying tax codes, visa hurdles, and the emotional toll of distance from family or language barriers. It is a fundamental choice about the architecture of your life, not just a way to balance the books. Perhaps the most lethal threat to a new retiree is the sequence of returns risk. Imagine two people who retire with identical portfolios and experience the same average market returns over 20 years, yet one ends up wealthy and the other ends up broke simply because the bad years happened at the beginning of their retirement. When you are forced to sell assets during a market crash to pay your bills, you are effectively cannibalizing a wounded portfolio, leaving less capital to participate in the eventual recovery. While the specific order of returns is mostly noise while you are still working and contributing, it becomes a matter of survival the moment you start making withdrawals. This volatility trap is why the early years of distribution are the most fragile period of your financial journey. Defensive maneuvers are essential to survive the volatile early years of asset distribution, where the timing of market swings can make or break a legacy. One of the most effective shields against a market crash is maintaining a cash buffer consisting of 1 to 2 years of living expenses stored in liquid, safe assets. This liquidity prevents the catastrophic necessity of selling equities while they are down. Furthermore, abandoning a rigid withdrawal schedule in favor of a flexible approach, where you refuse to hike spending when the market stumbles, provides an extra layer of protection. You might also adopt a dynamic budget, choosing to tighten your belt during lean years and loosening it when the bulls are running. Some individuals even choose to sustain part-time work in the initial phase of their transition. By earning even a small amount, you dramatically lower the withdrawal pressure on your portfolio, ensuring its long-term viability. Contemporary insights from organizations like Morningstar have begun to move past the era of static, one-size-fits-all percentages. Modern retirement is far from a sterile laboratory experiment where variables remain frozen. It is a living, shifting reality. Researchers now advocate for dynamic guardrails that adjust based on real-world market signals rather than sticking to a fixed, inflation-adjusted schedule forever. This fluidity mirrors actual human behavior, often described through the retirement spending smile. This concept illustrates how costs are typically high during the early, active adventure years, dip during the sedentary middle period, and then surge again later in life to cover assisted living or specialized healthcare. Avoiding common pitfalls is just as critical as hitting your savings target. Many find their plans derailed by underestimating the sheer weight of healthcare expenses, particularly during the gap before Medicare eligibility begins. Others ignore the slow-motion erosion caused by inflation, which can quietly double the cost of living over a 20 or 30-year horizon. However, there is also the danger of being paralyzed by excessive caution. Some people oversave to an extreme degree, delaying their liberty because they are trying to solve for every possible unknown. It is a mathematical certainty that uncertainty can never be fully eradicated. Additionally, it is a mistake to view the portfolio in a vacuum. Institutions like Fidelity point out that robust planning must integrate other streams such as Social Security, consulting fees, part-time labor, or the equity unlocked by downsizing a primary residence. The ultimate calculation for many lands within a range of 25 to 33 times their yearly costs. If your life requires $40,000 annually, you are looking at a target between $1 million and $1.33 million. Those at the $60,000 spending level should aim for a range of $1.5 million to $2 million. If your lifestyle demands $80,000, the math dictates a portfolio size of $2 million to $2.67 million. These figures serve as a map, not a destination, as your specific requirements will be shaped by tax efficiency, time horizons, and your own comfort with risk. Financial independence is ultimately less about a specific digit on a screen and more about reclaiming the hours of your life. The portfolio acts as a mechanical lever, intended to move the heavy burden of financial pressure off your shoulders so you can dictate your own pace and priorities. To begin, simply calculate your annual burn rate, multiply it by a factor of 25 to 33 based on your need for a safety margin, and determine the monthly investment required to bridge the gap. Maintain your discipline, optimize your tax strategy, and allow the steady force of time to perform the heavy lifting. Note that I am not a financial advisor. These insights are provided for educational context, and your specific outcomes are the product of your own independent actions.